G'day folks, in this video I'm going to look at solving a Megaminx turning only two adjacent faces. Now to clarify, this came about from sort of a viewer request who's got a triple fused Megaminx, and on that puzzle there are two faces which are adjacent and they have full rotation. So that face there and that face there. I don't have the triple fused Megaminx, but the viewer said, well, I could replicate the situation just on a normal Megaminx if I only turn two adjacent faces. How do we solve it? Okay, so I wanted to start with this, so I'm scrambling it up as well, so you can see that the scramble also is only two adjacent faces. So I'll just try and get a few things away from where they should be here, just so it looks like a decent scramble. They look okay. Got that couple of pieces over here, which could do with moving. At this point, I'm not entirely sure how far to keep going, because everything is really not next to where it should be, so it's probably a decent enough scramble. I could keep going, but who knows? So that is what I'm doing. Whoop, not that. Let's put that back. Scrambling just what I'm calling the left and right faces here, and I want to know, well, how can we solve this thing? Okay, well, the first thing to do is obviously to solve the edges. And the nice thing is, because we've only got two adjacent faces, there's going to be no flipped edges of any kind. So I would begin by, what I want to really leave myself with is 3 at the end up here. So I'm going to just solve these bottom two first. So that's a yellow-white. I'll just locate where that is and just turn it around to its position. This is a purple-white, which happens to have solved automatically. I'll now do these two here. So purple-green. Okay, that's over there. So now what I can do is involve another piece here and always use a piece in the center as making up the 3 pieces of a 3 cycle. So that's obviously the position. That's the piece. Here's my other piece. So I'll turn like that. You can see that has placed the purple green without disturbing these ones here. What about the yellow blue? Yellow blue is, where on earth is it? Oh, it's right in the middle. Okay, so I can do something similar. Just use this one, move that out the way, put its position up, and then undo, undo. So those two are done, those two are done. That yellow-green has solved itself. This needs to be a purple-blue. So I will just set it up so that it's in the middle and then cycle that across to that position there. And undo the setup. And that will leave 3 pieces in the middle. And what I was saying about no flips or anything means that it will always be a normal 3 cycle to finish it off. So the purple yellow turns correctly into its position, as does the purple orange. This is the one that does not. So if I was to turn that across there, it looks wrong. So that's the last piece that I turn. So I'll do that 3 cycle. That's the edges, and there's not much more to the edges than that. Okay, now the corners. With the corners, I also want to sort of work my way around. I don't want to do this at the moment. And the reason for that is what we can do using down, down, up, ups. On this solved Megaminx, let's hold it with sort of a left and a right face, and we're going to carry out 3 down, down, up, ups. Here's one of them. If I just do one, that's really useful for cycling these edges. Let's do a second one. Still a bit of a mess. And a third one. And we notice that the edges come back to solved. And in fact, I've got some corner movement. What corner movement do I have? Well, the yellow, purple, white and the yellow, purple, orange have swapped. So those two in the middle have swapped. And these two on the outside have also swapped. So I have a 2 + 2 swap. Notice that this is 2 swaps. 1, 2, which is the equivalent of a 3 cycle, but importantly, it is not in the form of a 3 cycle. So what I'm aiming for when I get to these corners is to have the corners in some kind of 2+2 swap, because I know that if they're in a 2+2 swap, then I can always do 3 down, down, up, ups. And I can deal with them. I should say also, it makes no difference if I start with a left face and then a right face, or if I start with a right face and then a left face. It'll be the same result. Well, with that in mind, what I'm going to do is position things so that I can get these solved, then hopefully these, and leave myself with 4 at the end. So let's have a look what's first, how I would approach this. If I was to look at the purple, white, green, that's the position. Where's the piece? Piece is over here. Because I have not done anything, what I can do is I know that I either want those two pieces in this position, or these positions so that they'll swap, or in the central 2 positions. So I could turn the right face twice to put that next to that, and turn the left face up to put them in the middle. Now that that's done, I can carry out my 3 down, down, up, ups. Now, I had some setups there, so I need to undo them. That was the first one. That was the second one. You'll notice that that corner there has now been placed. Let's try something similar with this. Yellow, blue, white. Where is it? Okay, it's over here. What I would do this time is it's not going to affect this, so I can just turn the right face to put the position opposite here, because I know that these two will swap. That's done. I'll undo and I'll note where the edges go. Okay, so that one is in place and that one is in place. Next, I want to look at these two. This one happens to already be done. That's reasonably common that one of them would be done. It's quite uncommon that both of them would be done. I will do another solve after this anyway, just because that's pretty unusual. But that now leaves us with the last 4 corners. Now, what I really want is some kind of 2+2 swap. In other words, it doesn't even matter if they're not here and here. They could be here and here. I could still set up to deal with them. What I'm not thrilled about is the 3 cycle. So let's have a look what we've got. Purple, white, yellow is actually in position, which means these other 3 are in 3 cycle because they're not solved. So this one to here, this one to here, and this one back to here. What I'm going to show is how to deal with a 3 cycle. Now, when I first encountered this, I hadn't actually realized it would even occur. And so I did a lot of experimentation and thinking about what are the different possible options that we could get here. Obviously, solved is one of them for these last 4 corners. Any kind of 2+2 swap, there's a few varieties there. But what about the 3 cycles? Well, let's say this is solved, then I could have that direction or that direction. If this middle one is solved, then I could have that direction or I could have that direction. You can see that there's quite a few possibilities here. What I did is attempt to do the standard sort of thing, which is to say, oh, well, if there's a problem with the corners, it's probably because there's a problem with the edges. And so I turned the left face 1 turn and I resolved the edges. And I will do that in just a tick. Now, what that turned out to do was when you turn the left face 1 turn clockwise like that, and then resolve the edges and resolve these corners, what you end up with is a 3 cycle which goes from this upper left to this down to the upper right. That one stays where it is. So that's really important. In the same way, if I did a right prime turn and then resolve the edges and resolve these corners, what I would end up with is a 3 cycle which is reversed. It goes from the upper right to the down to the upper left. Now, with that in mind, what I need to do is just have a look at the 3 cycle I've got and determine which of those 2 I need to carry out to end up with a 2+2 swap. And there's a very simple way to know which one it is. And that is, if it ends up with another piece solved, that is not the one. Because if I carried something out and let's say it solves this one, then the other three must still be in a 3 cycle. Let me see if I can demonstrate this. At the moment, as I said, I've got these 3 corners going in that direction. If I carried out the left turn and resolve, I would then be doing this. This corner would go down to here. Okay, that's not solved. This corner would go up to here. That's not solved. This one would go across to here. Purple, blue, orange. Oh, that is solved. Which would mean that if that happens, the other 3 would still be in a 3 cycle. So that tells me that this left turn and resolve is not the correct one. It tells me that the correct one will be a right prime and resolve. Let's just confirm it. If I did that, my piece movement would be like that. So this one would come down to here, not solved. This one clearly is not going to be solved because it's solved here. This purple, yellow, orange comes across to here, and that also is not solved. And therefore, because this one is not solved, I would absolutely have a 2 + 2 swap. So that is the way to just determine whether I do this or whether I do this. So for this scenario here, we've determined I need to do a right prime turn. And then I need to resolve the edges. How do I do that? Well, there are multiple ways, but I'm just going to take it really simply and straightforwardly. The first thing I'll do is to place the yellow-blue into this yellow-white edge here, because that's where it now belongs. So I've got to move yellow-blue to yellow-white. So I'll do some setups. 1, 2, and I know that I can clearly use this one. I'll just 3 cycle those. And then undo my setups. So that one's in. What about the yellow-green? Well, that's right next to it. So let's do 1 setup there and place that one. And undo the setup. Those 2 are back in. This one's the yellow-white. Well, I can happily do a setup to move the yellow-white into the middle and then cycle it home to there. Now you remember I did have 1 setup, so I'll undo that setup. Those 3 edges are back, and that again leaves us with a 3 cycle here. I can resolve those edges. You might be wondering, what is going on? Why is this happening? Well, keep in mind that the centers have no orientation. So when we go and solve the edges the first time, we can't really tell if the original solved state was like this or it was like that. So if we get this situation, it basically means one of the centers is out. If we had super stickers on the centers, then we would clearly be able to tell which was which and we would not run into this problem. Okay, so the edges are resolved. Now let's go resolve the relevant corners. That one's still good. That one's still good. I don't care about orientation, just that it's in. That one is good. That one, that needs to be a yellow, blue, green. Okay, that's sitting over there. The easiest way to deal with this is to do 1 setup and now swap them. Undo that setup. That one's in, they're in. I'll have 4 corners left. Let's have a look. I can see now that I in fact have a 2 + 2 swap with these 2 needing to swap and these 2 needing to swap, which is exactly what I wanted. So just think back to where I determined whether I should turn this face or this face. That was the reason for doing that, so that I now get myself a 2 + 2 swap. Having got that swap, all I need to do to place these last 4 corners is do some setups so that I have 2 of them that need to swap in the center and the other 2 on the outside. Okay, so let's say that I know these 2 need to swap. So I'm firstly going to put them there. That's a simple setup. I won't bother remembering that. But I now need to get this one up to that position. Well, in order to move that, I'm going to have to turn the left face twice anti-clockwise to move these out of the way. Then the right twice anti-clockwise to put that one in that position. And then the left twice to put these three back. That will now swap these two and these two. So as long as I remember those setups to undo them, I'll be totally fine. I can now carry out the 3 down, down, up, ups. Okay, now what on earth were the setups? Well, they had to get out the way. That one had to come back, and that should have been brought back. Does that look good? No. One more, I think. I've just lost my setups there, so I know that the yellow purple's got to go in the middle, so this has got to come around one more time. So it's simply a question of doing that. Okay, so if I'd written them down, I wouldn't have had that trouble. You can certainly see now that, in fact, the 4 corners that I had, which were here, are now correctly placed into their positions. Are they oriented? No, but that's okay, because now we're going to look at orienting the corners. Well, ordinarily on a cube, if we wanted to twist 2 corners, the standard sort of thing that we would do would be to perhaps do something like an up, up, down, down. And notice that this is involving 2 faces, and I'm going to do that twice. And that twists that top corner. Nothing else on the top face is turned. So then we would turn that top face. Well, as soon as I turn that top face, I'm now involving 1, 2, 3 faces. I need to turn 3 faces. Then, of course, I would undo that. So I'll do the mirror up, up, down, down to twist the other one. And I'd turn that 3rd face back. So it's perfectly possible to do that if I have access to 3 faces which can turn. What if I don't? Well, then sune comes to the rescue. And let's just carry out a sune. First of all, it's the right up, right prime up, right up 2, right prime. And the reason for the up 2 is so that it gets the correct pieces back so that only the top layer pieces are touched. Now, if I was just doing this normally to twist 2 corners, I would then carry out a left-hand sune. I've just started with the right face. I would now do this one. So a left prime and then an up prime, and then keep going like this. And I've twisted 2 corners, anti-clockwise, clockwise. You'll begin to see the problem though, because the first sune I did these 2 faces, but now I've involved a 3rd face. How do I deal with that? Well, what I could do instead is carry out the sune to begin with. And then obviously what I want to do is essentially be able to move these pieces by turning that face, but I can't turn the left face. So instead, I can rotate the entire cube around and turn the upper face twice. And now I can do my left face turn, but it's actually the original right face. So I'm still only using 2 faces. So I carry out the sune mirror. And then because I turned the upper face twice, I'll return it twice, come back to where I started, and I see that yet again, I have achieved anti-clockwise at the front, clockwise at the back. So that is the technique that I'm going to use for the Megaminx. Let's have a look here, and I'm going to hold the yellow as the up and the purple as the right. Of course, it doesn't matter. I could do purple as up and yellow as right, whatever. So now, instead of having it sort of like this with a left and right, I'm considering an up and a right so I can look at the sune. So on a Megaminx, the first thing to note is that the sune, instead of a U2 at the end, it's actually a U3. So let's go. Right, up, right prime, up, right. And if I just do the up 2, it's not going to come back properly. But if I do the up 3, and then return it, lo and behold, I've got the sune carried out. The 2 corners that are of interest are these 2 corners here. And so I need to find a way. Remember, I don't have access to this face. I can only turn the yellow and purple. So I want to do this, but I can't. So instead, I'm going to turn it around so that instead of having a yellow up, purple right, I now have a yellow up, purple left. But remember, this face is perfectly turnable. Which are the two corners? Well, these ones here. Once again, I need to turn the up face twice before I begin. And here I go. Mirror sune. Three. And then down. Now, as per the cube, I undo those two turns. And I note that when I come back to the starting position, I've achieved exactly the same thing as I did on the cube. That front left corner has been twisted anti-clockwise. The back left has been twisted clockwise. Well, with that in mind, what we need to just consider is I need to get the two corners over here, and I want this one to be turning anti-clockwise and this one to be turning clockwise. So it's very rare that that'll just automatically happen. Let's have a look. I can see here though that this one needs to go anti, this one needs to go clock. So a very simple setup move is just that one turn, and I'm now ready to rotate these two corners. So I'll carry out the right hand sune. Then I'm going to turn the puzzle around, bring the pieces around and carry out a left hand sune. I'll undo that top layer, bring it back around, and you remember that we had one set up at the beginning. So those two have now been done. That leaves us this one is clockwise, this one's anti, or that can be just put into the position there, and away we go again. We come back here and we are absolutely 100% solved. What I'm going to do now is just to do another scramble and another essentially walkthrough solve, because I'll get a different scenario and we'll see how that one goes too. Okay, here we go again. We've got a scrambled puzzle. Let's deal with some edges first. So where's the yellow white? That can be turned into position. I want the purple white here. Can also be turned into position. Let's have a look at the purple green or the yellow blue. Purple green is here, so I'll move its position around, put it on, undo, undo. Yellow blue, that's sitting over there. So again, position, on, undo, undo. The two lower edges are done. I want these two done. That yellow green is done. What about the purple blue? That's sitting over here. They're now done. That leaves three at the top, and the edges are dealt with. Again, we don't know whether I'm going to need to turn a face because I can't see the centers, but we'll now solve the corners and see what's going on, or at least permute the corners. Let's have a look. I've got purple, that needs to be purple, green, white, and it's right next to it, which is fantastic. So I'll just turn that up and do the 3 down, down, up, ups to swap those two. Undo the setup. That's in and it's oriented. Yellow, white, blue is over here. Now, how can I do this one? This is a little bit trickier. I've got to actually think. I'll put it there. Yep, I think this will work. I don't want to disturb that one. That's the only one I don't want to disturb. This will not work because it will end up disturbing that one, I think. No, it won't. That's brilliant. Okay, so I want to move this across to here and that one across to there, because then those two will swap. So I'm going to turn right prime, left prime, and then this is the one I don't want to touch, right prime. Now that is the position of this piece. So let's just undo those and check that that is correct. That yellow, blue, green is the position. So right prime, left prime, right prime. Now I'm ready to go and swap those two. All my setups, that one, and that one. Okay, that's in. That one's in. That one is not. So that's yellow, green, blue. Now, this is a great little case. When they're in this position and I want to swap them, I first move this across to here. And then that's the piece that I want to put there. So I can do one setup, put its position up to the top, and do the swap back. Undo my setup. That and that are in. Those two are in. That will leave me some kind of either a 2+2 swap or a 3 cycle, and clearly that is solved. The rest aren't, so I now have a 3 cycle like this. Okay, so I don't even really have to think about what direction anything's going. I just need to think what would happen if I did that turn and then resolved. Well, this corner would go here, which would not be solved. This one, purple, orange, yellow, would go there, not solved. This one, purple, yellow, white, would go here, also not solved. So that is the turn that I want to make. Just to compare, if I happen to do this turn, then I would have the purple, yellow, white going down to here, and it would clearly be solved, which would still leave these in some kind of 3 cycle. Okay, so last time I did the right prime first. This time I need to do the left as the turn, and I need to resolve my edges. So again, the purple green can come to here first. So I'll do some setups. Undo setups. Next, the purple blue, which is adjacent. Undo. Purple white is over here, so I can just set it up like that. And those 3 are done. It leaves me 3 in the middle. All the edges are resolved. I've now got to look at the corners. Those 2 are good. This one's good. What's this one? Purple, blue, green. Okay, that's across there. So I'll just do one turn as a setup and swap. Undo my setup. Have a look at the 4 corners that are remaining. And what I'll notice is that the orange, green, yellow belongs here. The orange, yellow, purple belongs here. So there's a swap. And purple, yellow, white, and purple, orange, blue also need to swap. So as long as I can get those 2 in the middle and these 2 on the sides, I can then place these last 4 corners. So I think this was actually the exact same setups as before. So I'll put them there. Won't bother remembering that. Left 2 prime, right 2 prime, left 2. Okay, now we can do the swaps. Now undo setups. Actually, let me just think. It was left 2 prime, right 2 prime, left 2. So it needs to be that way, that way, that way, I think. I reckon I did this last time as well. Now that just means I've just lost the setup, so I'm going to just cycle those edges home. Those edges are home. Let's see what I find with my corners. They're done. The last four, that's in, that's in, that's in, and that's in. So apart from my setups at the end, which I stuffed up, that has worked perfectly. I now need to go and orient these corners as I can. What have I got? That's anti. That's anti, 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 clock, clock, anti. Well, I can always turn it around like this and see if that's a clock, that's a clock. Yeah, none of them are in really nice positions, so there's probably no point doing that. Let's have a look. This is going to involve a few setups, I think. Anti, and I'd like a clock to go there before I start, which will be that one there. So I'll just do that turn, which I won't bother remembering, and then that one there. So just a left prime to begin with, and away I go. And then, of course, get the left prime done. There's two of them completed. That's anti. In fact, I should have also done that one there. That's an anti, as is that, as is that, as is that. So what have I got here? Anti and a clock. That's the only clock. So basically, what I'm going to have to do, this one here is an anti-clockwise. This is a clockwise. So I'm going to move those two into the middle, and then I'm going to turn them around like that. So the anti-clockwise one is at the bottom here. So I'll just remember to do left 2 at the end, but they're now ready to orient. And clearly, I'm not going to bother undoing that because it's very easy to see. Anything to help me undo my setups is a good thing. What have I got now? 3 that need to rotate anti-clockwise. So I'm just going to have to get one of them done. If I leave that one alone, I think what I want to do, in actual fact, is turn this one clockwise so that then that will need to turn clockwise. That will be untouched and be anti-clockwise. Will that be nice and simple? Yes, I think it will. So I'm going to just move them around so those two get done first. Okay, let's put that all back. Cool, that's a clockwise one. This is, where are we going? Here, there's the clockwise, it's anti-clockwise. So I can simply turn that as I hoped it would work and then bring that around to there. See if I can get myself out of this. That looks good. That looks good. So there we go. It's a little walkthrough as well as that tutorial. I hope that helps. As always, thanks for watching.